Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you all to another edition of our Monday training at Adbond Harvest and Homes. We do this training in our organization to equip ourselves for the task that is ahead of us. And so I want to welcome you all. I want to welcome the eTeam members. I want to welcome the virtual staff members. I want to welcome the full staff members. I want to welcome every individual that is watching us out there in Canada, in New York, in Australia, and every part of the world. We want to welcome you all to this Monday training. The topic for today is becoming a person of lifelong learning. Becoming a person of lifelong learning. And underneath there's a caption there, living to increase one's value. And once again, my name is Stephen Awoyemi. So I'm going to begin with a quote. And the quote says, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning is young. And the greatest thing in life is to keep your mind young. This quote was stated by Henry Ford. Alright, I'm a Bible scholar and I understand what it means to have a young mind. When you have a young mind, it helps you to broaden your imagination. You can think deep. It helps you to see visions, So when you are the type that you are given to learning, you are always constantly learning at every available time. What it does is to you is that it keeps your mind young and your mind becomes very open to different kinds of imagination. And we shouldn't forget the largest nation in the world is the world of what? Imagination. So Henry Ford is saying that we have to keep learning to have our minds young. We have to keep learning to have our minds young because by the time you have an old mind, you have less imagination. You think less. You think less because you have less information around you. So learning exposes you to a number of information, makes you knowledgeable, and it broadens your imagination. Quickly, we'll slide into the definition of lifelong learning. What is the definition of lifelong learning? This is gotten from UNESCO because there's the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization for Lifelong Learning. So I picked this definition from there, and it says, lifelong learning, as defined by UNESCO, is an ongoing, voluntary, self-initiated, and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. I want us to look at the keywords, and that's what I'll talk about in the next slide. The lifelong learning, as defined as UNESCO, is an ongoing, voluntary, self-initiated, and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. What are the major points in the definition? Lifelong learning is voluntary, alright? It's self-motivated or self-initiated. Most times it doesn't require a cost. Most times it is often informal. It is self-taught or instruction that is sought, and it is motivation that is out of personal experience or personal development. It is out of personal interest or personal development. So if you are the type that would want to stay in the line of learning always, you realize that it is something that is often done out of voluntary action. It's not, nobody is forcing you to learn when it comes to lifelong learning, because the benefits of learning on a long haul. And most times it's self-motivated or self-initiated. The motivation is from you because you know that when you learn more, you get better. And most times this doesn't require a cost, all right? You go online, you want to learn about a particular thing, it doesn't require a specific cost. If you have your laptop, if you have your phone with you, all you need to do sometimes is just to go online and then check whatever you need to check. And then what happens? It adds to your knowledge. It is often informal. It's not something that is mostly done inside the four walls of the school. It's not usually done in four walls of the school. It is self-taught or instruction that is sought. You seek for it yourself. You are the one seeking for information. You want to know more about a specific thing, probably about your organization, about what you love personally, about your passion, about your gift. You are the one doing the research yourself, and it is motivation out of personal interest or personal development. You want to develop yourself. You want to know more about a particular thing. So that is what motivates you. That's what galvanizes you to go and learn more about that particular thing. So that is what lifelong learning is about. You chasing knowledge in order to make yourselves better personally or professionally. Alright, so I want to talk about some things that we talk about generally. I'll call them common sense. And the first thing is that we usually say that the moment you acquire a college degree, you are sure to earn a living. The moment you are done with the university, primary school, secondary school, university, then you are sure to earn a living. Is that really true? Next is that when you learn a good profession, you are set for life. When you learn a good profession, be it tailoring, be it any profession in the area of your interest, the moment you learn it and you are done with the learning, then what happens? You are set for life. Is that really true? The next thing is, when you are good at something, be good at something, not everything. Be good at something and not everything. We're in a world whereby things are revolving and changing. Technology is changing everything, all right? And you realize that what you know today, tomorrow you need to update it. What you know tomorrow, next tomorrow you need to what? You need to keep updating it. And we often hear from our parents, from our teachers, that when you know just one thing, probably you study mathematics in school and you are so good in the mathematics, then you really don't have to bother yourself knowing some other things. Just restrict yourself to one area and then you would do well. So be good at one thing and you don't have to be good at everything. Does that really make sense? And another thing is one lifetime, one career. What that is saying is that in this very world that we are in, the moment you are fixed yourself in one career, the moment you have one career to yourself, for example, you decide to study medicine in the university, all right, and then with that medicine, the moment you're out of school, that is what you stick with, in your entire life. I have a friend that he studied medicine in school, but at this very moment, what he does more is writing. He makes a lot of money out of what? Out of writing. So are we still going to say that this is valid? Have one career and then you are done, with that for a lifetime. All right. And the next thing here is statements to ponder on. I want us to ponder on this statement on lifelong learning. And the first thing is, if we stop learning today, we will stop leading tomorrow. If we stop learning today, we will stop leading tomorrow. I've often heard that readers are what? Are leaders. If you are the type that you are given to constant learning, you are always seeking to improve yourself to be better, what happens is that you'll be given a space, a chance to what? To lead. So the moment you stop learning, the capacity to lead drops. One of the very persons I really value the most and I look up to is Mr. Oluwademiga, one of the co-founders of Adbond Virtual Staff. And one of the things I realized with him is that every day he keeps reinventing himself. And the moment you really want to lead well, the moment you want to lead a group of people well, you have to keep learning. The moment you stop learning, what happens? You stop leading. Number two is the enemy of your progress is your last success. The enemy of your progress is your last success. Most of the time, the moment to achieve one big success, take for instance in our company, as a salesperson personally, most times when you earn commission, for example, you earn a whole lot of commission, you feel relaxed, and then for the next few weeks you don't want to do anything because you've achieved a huge success for yourself. You've achieved one huge success and you feel like you don't really need to do much. Most of the time the success we achieve now is what would affect the success we want to achieve next. And another thing I will talk about is life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Most of the time, the moment we are fine with one particular level of life, we usually want to feel relaxed. We usually want to stay in a zone whereby we do things easily. And one of the things I want us to ponder on is that at the end of the comfort zone never ends. You get to one comfort zone, you have to push to move to another comfort zone, and you have to keep pushing and you have to keep pushing till we leave planet Earth. We never get to exhaust our comfort zone, because at the end of a comfort zone begins another life. Number 4, we never arrive at a full place of knowledge, maturity about our work. We never arrive at a full place of knowledge and maturity about our work. I'm going to link that with number 5. Number 5 says, our business is a personal development program, cleverly disguised as a business. Our business is a personal development program, cleverly disguised as a business. Whatever business we have found ourselves in, it's a special development program for every one of us. We must always look out for ways to keep getting better at the business. What you do today, look out for a better way to do it tomorrow. You reach out, you look out to your team members, you look out to the customers you're reaching out to. You have to keep developing yourself. So the business you find yourself in, it could be the tailoring, it could be hairdressing, whatever thing you find yourself in, whatever business, it's disguised as a personal development program. You need to, it's something that God has put in your hands to make yourself better. So we never arrive at the full place of knowledge in that business. What happens, or what I mean by that is, even as a fashion designer, you realize that you keep learning and learning and learning. As a salesperson, you don't stop learning. Learning never stops. You keep getting better and getting better and getting better. So whatever business we have found ourselves being, be it a salesperson, a sales personnel, what your business stands for is a personal development program. Alright, so to the next slide, I'll just quickly talk about the benefits of lifelong learning. What are the benefits of lifelong learning? The moment you embrace learning at every point in time of our lives, what does it do to us? Number 1 is that it helps personal and professional growth. It helps personal and professional growth. In our lives, we all have things we are aiming to achieve, individually, in the areas of our passion, in the areas of our gifts, in the areas of our interest. The moment we are given to learning one thing every day, what happens is that it helps us to grow personally. And also in our businesses, in whatever career we find ourselves, in whatever organization we find ourselves, when we are given to learning, all the time, learning consciously all the time, what it does is that it helps us gain a better stand, in whatever organization we find ourselves. The next thing is that there's renewed self-motivation. There's renewed self-motivation. I've once heard that the greatest drive any individual needs to have is the inner drive. Alright? The drive that comes from within. So when you are the type given to learning at every point in time that you have the opportunity to, what happens is it renews your motivation. So every morning you realize that you want to keep going, you want to keep getting better. Because that's one thing with learning. When you learn something today, it ignites you, it keeps you excited, and then you want to keep moving in that line. So you have to embrace, lifelong learning, because that's one of the things it does to you. You wake up, even when you're down, there's this self-motivation that comes from within. Then the third thing is that it improves self-confidence. It improves self-confidence. As an individual that is given to lifelong learning in your organization, wherever place you find yourself, what you see happens to me, what you see happens to you, is that you have self-confidence. So for instance, at Adbond Harvest and Homes, we deal with Adbond to Home project development. The moment you are doing everything in your own capacity, to get to know more about agriculture, to get to know more about real estate, what happens is that it improves your confidence. Also, when you have more product knowledge, when you increase your product knowledge, what it does as well is that it increases your self-confidence. When customers are talking to you, they ask you about any packages, and you can easily give them everything about the package. When they ask you questions about the company, you can easily tell them, what it does to you is that it improves your self-confidence. The number 4 thing there is that it enhances your employability status. When you are the person given to learning, a manager will seek to hire you ahead of someone who doesn't really learn. From a research that I made, I was made to know that when people go out to seek out for employment, most of the time the manager is looking out for 15%, 15% out of the number of people that comes to apply. And one of the things that gives edge that gives any individual edge over another is the fact that you know more than what you are taught in school. You know more than what you're taught in the four walls of the university. And that's why most times when we go for interviews, most interviewers will not ask you questions alone within your, what you learned in the school. They want to know if you are the type that you are given to learning things outside of school, And that's one of the things lifelong learning encourages us to. Lifelong learning is much more about what you learned in the four walls of the school, in the primary, secondary, university. That's why in the key checklist we talked about being an informal kind of learning most times. It's something you have to do out of your way, out of school, to get to know more. And the last thing is it can aid wealth creation. It can aid wealth creation in the sense that when you know so much, you can easily see what people need. And when you provide what people need, what happens? You get money in return. One of the things we say at Adbond is that when you give value, what you get in return is what? Is value. And the value you get by return can be in form of money. So when you're the type that you are given to learning on a regular basis, in the morning when you wake up, you have a plan to learn. The next day when you wake up, you have a plan to learn, and you have a daily plan for learning. What it does to you is that it positions you well, to earn money, to create wealth outside. So that's the benefits of lifelong learning. So to the next slide, how do you become a lifelong learner? How can you become a lifelong learner? Number one is that you recognize your personal interest and goals. Recognize your personal interest and goals. One of the major things I've learned about lifelong learning is that there are many things to learn out there. Vast things to learn out there. And there are a number of things you will learn that will not be useful for you. And that is why you have to know your personal interest and know your goals. So when you understand what areas you are interested in, things you are passionate about, it helps you to streamline the things you have to learn. All right? And the moment you understand that, it helps you to plan ahead for what you need to learn. And that takes us to number two, draw out a to learn list. The moment you have identified the area that your area of interest, your area of passion, the next thing is, what are the things I need to learn in that area? Take for example, you love to study history. All right, so you have identified in number one that history is what you love to study. So it means that in your to learn list, you have to now streamline the history. Is it the history of Nigeria? Is it the history of the world? Is it the history of the Europeans? So you have to streamline it and write it down that is what you need to learn. And then look out for resources in that in that line, and that helps you to keep updating yourself in that very area. All right, and then what you need to do next is to structure the learning goal into your everyday life. I've matched number 2 and 3 together. When you have identified the areas you're passionate about and your goals, draw out a to learn list, probably for yourself every day. This is what I need to learn in this aspect. This is what I need to learn in this aspect. And if it is 1 hour daily, keep to it and work at it. And then what you need to do next is, what are the resources that you need to get better in that very area that you have talked about? And then get those resources. Structure the learning goal into your everyday life. Okay, so I've decided that every morning I want to learn 1 hour. I want to learn about the history of Nigeria 1 hour every morning. The moment you have it written down and you follow it regularly, it becomes part of you. It becomes part of you. And the last part is, if you want to become a lifelong learner, is that you have to be committed to all of the things you have stated down. Number 5 is like the most important. If you have done 1 to 4 and you are not committed to everything you have written down, then it means you are not moving close to becoming a lifelong learner. All right. So recommendation. Lifelong learning must be encouraged in organizations. If you have been following me, I've been trying to talk about lifelong learning as an individual. But even in organizations, it must be well encouraged, because when an organization understands that lifelong learning will better position their employees and at the same time would help to increase customer satisfaction, then it means the company or the organization would always find out ways to regularly train the members of staff, because when you train the members of staff, one of the things it does is that it helps them to understand better their roles in their organization. And when they understand their roles in the organization, it helps to make things better for the organization. So I said two major things it will do is that it increases employee motivation and engagement. When an organization is given to lifelong learning, what it does is that it helps the employee, to be motivated for more tasks, for more to do well, to do better in the organization, and also it helps them to engage better. They feel free more when they get to know more about the organization, and when the organization encourages them to learn on their own. And the number two thing it does is that it improves customer satisfaction by answering the why, how, and when question. It improves customer satisfaction by answering the why, the how, and when questions. And what that is saying is that when an organization is given to lifelong learning, when an organization does training from time to, just like we do at Adbond Virtual Staff, one of the reasons we do our Monday trainings is that we want to get better. We want to get better with ourselves, and at the same time, we want to improve our customer satisfaction. And so when an organization is given to long life learning, like we just mentioned, what it does is that it helps the employee to answer the question of why are we here, and the why is that we are here to satisfy the customers out there. They are the end users. Customers are the kings rather. So what we need to do, every time when we come here is to look out for ways to make our customers satisfied. So when the individuals are given to learning at every point in time, given to understand the product knowledge, it helps to answer the question how. Most of the customers, they come at every point in time, all they want to hear is how is this like that, why is this like that, how is that like that. And the major reason for the how is to improve the product knowledge, to know more about the product of the company. And as a staff, when you understand so much about the product of the company, there is no how a customer would call you and then you reply to them. They get satisfied, because one of the greatest things a customer is looking out for is that he wants to be cleared of his doubts. He wants to be cleared of his confusion. So that is why it is very, very vital that we must constantly and continually update and update ourselves in our product knowledge. And also the when questions. When customers ask you questions, they want to get the answers almost immediately. So you must always do well to answer questions almost immediately. So that's what it does. It helps to answer the why question, it helps to answer the how question, and it helps to answer the when question. So it is very important that we embrace lifelong learning as an individual and also as organizations if we must achieve greatness. I'm going to end with the quote which says that live as if you were to die tomorrow and learn as if you were to live forever. Live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. This is a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and what he's trying to say is that every day of our life we must live like this is the last time you have here on earth. When you have that consciousness, what it helps you to do is that you always value every day. You value every day of your life. You understand that the life that you have now is not yours. You are only being gifted, every day you wake up. So when you see life that way, what you do is that you value it. When you live life as if you have to die tomorrow, you value it. This is one of the things that Steve Jobs would always say as well, that you have to take life very seriously every day. And you have to learn as if you would live forever. Because if you keep learning and you know that forever is ahead of you, what it does for you is that it helps to position you in that place of learning every day and every time. So I want to say thank you for joining us today for this beautiful teaching, becoming a lifelong learner. Thank you.